Welcome to the TBI podcast. It's been a little bit of time. In case you've forgotten, I'm Jamal from RVA, and this is
Justin from Richmond.
Justin from Richmond, and we're back yet again with another awesome, just content-filled episode for you guys. There's been so much that's taken place over the last, has it been what, 30 days, 45 days? I had
Yeah.
kids, so I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
there's just a lot happening.
A lot happening, yes. So, I've got like buku thoughts about what has transpired over the last 30 to 45 days. Um, but I will yield to you, good sir, if you'd like to take the lead and kind of open us up with either a spicy nugget or a hot topic that you've got on your mind.
Oh boy. Unfortunately, I went to a dark place right before right before we started. So I'm like, and I was like, all right, so he's gonna talk, and I'm gonna be able to get there. But okay, we're just gonna have to have a real moment, I suppose. Um, but I mean, there's definitely some. I'm not gonna get on that subject because Lord knows, it's too early to be that emotional. I won't make it to the podcast. All right, so as far as I want to do something other than politics, or at least that's what I was gonna do for just a moment, but.
Hmm.
When I woke up this morning, one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning is I like to at least look at the headlines, see what my little algorithmic news genie decides that I like to see and shows me.
Hmm.
And it said that allies are attempting to de-escalate the situation between Iran and Israel.
Oh God.
And I was like, well, that sounds a little counter productive for the military industrial complex there, but okay, whatever. I
Hmm.
guess they're pretty busy with Ukraine. I mean, that's the testing ground right now for all the toys anyway. So,
Hmm.
and at least that's a more contained space. So, kind of whatever. But I was like, I basically, this is the way I see it. Like the whole Israel, Iran, and like the UK, Australia, France, the UK, the really close allies to Israel. It just makes me think of like, you're chilling or whatever, and someone's little brother like walks up in your yard and just like slaps you across the face, and you're like, you're like, oh, for real? Okay. Well, let me clap back real quick. But then all of a sudden, the big brother shows up and is like, what? Like, but he came over here though. Like, I don't care. Like, we're and like and that little brother is Israel. It's like
Yeah.
it can be as belligerent as it wants, really. And the worst that's going to happen is we're going to say you shouldn't do that. Maybe with a wink, maybe with a little wink. But I mean, Biden withholding a handful of 2,000-pound bombs ain't shit. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not doing anything to stop the war machine. And so, of course, they move a new carrier group in there to replace, I believe, it was the Abraham Lincoln or whatever carrier strike group or whatever. Couple of destroyers are
Okay.
in the area. Plus, there's the USS Wasp, which is an amphibious assault vehicle that has a bunch of Marines on it that will go into Lebanon and remove any Americans they need to remove, particularly like from the embassies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Should war break out there as well. But what confuses me to no end is Iran or Iran, to say it properly.
Hmm.
And I say that because you've been in the neighborhood with this family for a while. That little brother comes in the yard every now and then and does that exact thing. Why aren't you
Hmm.
already ready with the clapback? I mean, if I were Iran, I would always we would always be at a state of high readiness all the time. So that way, there's no, oh man, they're moving stuff into position. No, no, I'm sorry, it sucks for this. It sucks for the troops, but hey, it's not. We're not giving much choice in the matter anyway. We got stuff to handle here. But so now while they're sitting there, well, and I'm gonna tell you why I think they're waiting. Um, but basically, you're allowing Israel and the UK and France, like I mentioned, those countries specifically because they're already reinforcing the area to help shoot down the drones. And then you have, of course, Jordan, which is another Western ally that eats up a bunch of that, which eats up part of the paths for a lot of those missiles to go through. Now, before Iran did that whole 300 combined arms strike against Israel, what was it back in April?
Hmm.
Um, they had tipped off a couple of the neighboring countries that they're like, hey, we're going to send these missiles, and a couple of those countries were U.S. allies. So no shit, the U.S. knew, so
Yeah,
everybody was kind of prepared for that. So I'm wondering now if they're not, if they're, I'm wondering now if they're doing any of that back channeling. But I think that the only advantage that they have to waiting is basically a synchronized assault from Hezbollah, Hamas, and a lot of the other smaller Iran-aligned groups that do exist out there, and at least have the capability of rockets and mortars, which can still help to overload the Iron Dome that protects the most populous parts of Israel.
yeah. Well, I think I'm not sure what this latest assassination on the head of Hamas means to Israel exactly. You know what I mean? So I think there's only there's two ways that I kind of think about this. One is um, okay, if you had, I mean, you pretty much wiped out Gaza at this point, and that should have been maybe in some people's eyes enough. But then you enter into um, Iranian sovereign territory and assassinate this guy via, I think it was a bomb in his room, right? Or
That
where it
seems
was
to be
saying,
the most consistent story now. Is that it was a bomb plant in his room months prior. So there was some maneuvering by Mossad to get um,
yeah,
that fella
yeah.
in that particular room.
So I think that Iran is already well infiltrated by by Mossad, and the extent to which the Iranian counterintelligence services know about that, I have no idea. But it has to be somewhat troubling because they're pretty much able to pull off assassinations and attacks. It seems like at will, right? And if they really have that many holes in their intelligence services, I'm not sure what they can do. I mean, it's there's not a whole lot they can do to surprise Israel, I don't think. Um, but it just depends on how they feel about this, this latest assassination. He wasn't any sort of government official,
Oh,
so
this is a
just
really this is actually
yeah,
a pretty important point because I thought about this the other day. Um, because really he was a political leader. He was actually the lead negotiator for Hamas in the Israel peace talks. So to me, that was a very clear sign that Israel has zero intention on peace talks because they killed the lead negotiator.
right,
So they're seeing it. So it's really more of a political victory for them on as far as like how it's being spun in Israel. And
hmm
I don't know if you saw this, but one of their foreign ministers or something like that, he said it would be moral to starve 2 million Palestinians until their hostages are returned. He said that today. And another
well,
fun fact
obviously,
about Israel is that Israel knows, because they've admitted that they know they kill roughly two civilians to every one Hamas fighter, and they've killed more than 12,000. So that should tell you that Gaza's health ministry's numbers are actually fairly accurate, where it stands between 39 and 40,000 dead now, and I believe almost 90,000 injured.
yeah,
And of course, the Israelis aren't the one pulling the bodies, so I'm sure their count would be a little bit low anyway.
yeah. I don't think that I don't think they care. I
Oh
mean,
no,
that's
they
and
know.
it seems very obvious.
I will say that for the foreign minister, he said it would be moral to do so, but nobody would let us do it. So he's totally for it. but he-
Yeah, I don't think
but the
you can.
but you know
Yeah, but I think Israel just needs to, you want to make sure you keep popular support for your country internationally. But when you take these kinds of actions, it kind of makes it hard for people to want to support you internationally when you're doing things like this. I think if they had, I mean, it's obvious if they planted that bomb months ago, they obviously knew who he was and where he was months ago. And I'll go on the record and say I agree with a lot of right-wing conservatives when they said you should just go in there with some specialized special forces and just eliminate the leadership. Just take them out. Cut the head off the snake, not do it months later. So it seems to me like you could have taken this action. Not that I necessarily am saying, oh yeah, let's just assassinate people, but you could have taken this action months ago to eliminate Hamas leadership and then just round up the rest of them. and then deliver whatever justice that seems appropriate to you at that time. So whether you're eliminating the leadership, round the rest of them up and put them on trial or whatever, or whatever, just do that. I think you could have done this. This was just sloppy. You didn't need to do
No,
this
I'm
to a
not sure if I
civilian population.
completely. I'm not sure if I completely agree with that because I now I'm not, I don't remember for certain, but I believe they said that that fellow had been in hiding for a while, but started making moves after the death of the previous president, and it was because he went to the inauguration of the new president. He was even in the area, so they knew where he was. So the operatives are within the government, and I guess they had that room set aside for whatever targets they could possibly steer into there, and they got themselves a big fish, so they took the shot.
Mhm.
I think that maybe they really couldn't get to him, at least not without even more devastating side effects. Because I mean, at least this is a rare instance where the Israelis managed to just kill the target and not 15 other people that were just chilling drinking tea.
Well, I think you can. An argument could be made for that. I mean, there's no way for me to know the specifics, but I think what you're saying sounds plausible. What they're going to do about this, though, who knows? If they is this? I guess the question would be: Is this enough to justify, all out war, right? Um, Iran has a lot of proxies, and so do a lot of other people um, operating in and around the area. So, you talk about the shadow war, it's probably about to come out of the shadows to some degree. Is it going to be World War III? I don't know. I don't know if this is enough, but certainly, certainly you're taking steps in that direction. Yeah, you're certainly taking steps in that
Or
direction. I think.
or maybe Iran will magically sidestep this because, according to at least published recent intelligence reports, Iran is only weeks away from having a functional nuclear bomb. So maybe they're waiting to be able to say, "Are you sure?"
No, I think they already have a nuclear weapon. And we
It
talked
wouldn't
about
surprise
this
me if
on the
they did.
podcast. Yeah, we talked about this a couple months ago on the pod. They've been, what was it like? We said it, and I think we talked about
Well,
it a
I
little
mean,
bit
like
in the tech.
this is like within like the last week or so where they were saying like, no, 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 like this is like really about to happen. Like
No,
that's what I read.
I think they actually have nuclear weapons because for the last 25 years they've been only a couple months away from being able to develop a nuclear weapon. They've at
Yeah,
this
but the
point.
program got wiped out a few years ago. They had to start it from scratch.
Yeah, so when Stuxnet, that cyber attack happened that really destroyed the capabilities, I think it did set them back. But I'm of the opinion that I believe at this point that I know Israel's been like furiously trying to interrupt their nuclear weapons program, and have been largely successful. But I'm just of the opinion that they have been successful in that, in developing nuclear weapons. I'm not sure about their delivery capabilities. I know that I think it was a year or two ago, they were doing some rocket tests, um, um, long range rocket tests that were not, they weren't successful. So um, their delivery capabilities, I'm unsure of, but I'm 95% sure they have a nuclear weapon, which, may be, part of what all this is about.
They
So,
have a new ballistic missile now that's actually pretty good. I don't know if it's capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. I might just see what the old Google Lily wants to. Hey, what happened with the Google antitrust thing? Do you know which way that went? I didn't even know which way. I didn't
yeah,
realize which way it went.
it didn't come down in their favor.
It
So
went against Google.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
So we'll have
fairly
to.
surprised because the parent company of Google is
Um,
the CIA.
oh, yeah. Well, and I wouldn't
Yeah,
be
they
surprised
own the
if
company that owns Google.
they had. I mean, this has. There's a lot of concerns around this sort of thing. I mean, Google has a lot of information, that I know the government will be interested in, NSA, CIA, Facebook to a lesser degree. Yeah. If you're not, if anybody out there listening here doesn't understand this, you're 10 years behind. You are 10 years behind, buddy. So I guess you said get with the times, right? Would make perfect sense there. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I didn't really think that that would. I wasn't really sure which way that would go.
Mm.
Um, but but yeah, I think global tensions, man, I think they're just unnecessarily high. It's there's a lot going on. I think if you just pay attention, if you just kind of look at the headlines that come out, but don't actually, stay at the forefront very long, you see flashes of it here, flashes of it there, flashes of it here. You can see that there's a lot of stuff happening with the Five Eyes right now. Um, a lot of stuff happening with the Five Eyes right now. So there's something's up. You know, they've those countries, those that intelligence group is highly mobilized right now. So what that means, who knows? Who knows? But could it be World War III? Could be. Could be going on. We just don't. It's just not right in front of our eyes, if that makes sense. So, um,
Um,
I always want to talk about the economy, but I think I'll save that one for a little bit later. Anything that you had that was first? That was a good question about Google, though. Um, I know we got politics coming up, and I know I've got a lot to say about that. Um, but yeah, before I do that, is there anything you want to throw in here?
um, there was, but I can't remember what it is. The World War III thing. I don't know. Um, I gotta say, I'm very curious about World War III because that would be the only situation where America would really would really show the toys that don't get talked about and seem like science fiction, but in fact are science fact.
Hmm.
I wonder if it would really be that long of a war if it really got if it really got that serious where we decided to show the true capabilities that in which we possess. But did you know that China has a transmedium drone?
Yes, I did see that,
I thought that was.
and we
I was
have
like, for real? I was like, yeah, I thought I was actually thought it was pretty cool. We actually
well,
admitted we don't know what to do with that.
I think that it's not. I don't believe, just based on what I heard about it, it's not anything that is like mind blowing. Like I think if you it it's like one of those. You remember when you first saw the cars that could drive on land and they just drive in the water and they keep going and they come out and they drive on land. I don't
Yeah,
think it's anything. It's not like, they're flying they have drones that fly at like 200 or 300 miles an hour and they slip effortlessly under the water and they're doing like 100 knots under the water. They come right back out and it's not like that. It's more along the lines of, this thing, kind of flies around, but it has, some uh, thrusters built into it, some what would you call an engines for water? I just think about thrusters because I know large ships they call them thrusters. But
yeah, I think
anyway,
that's fair. I mean, yeah,
just basic little water thrusters. So it'll land on the water and then it can float across the water and then it has some submergence capabilities. I don't think it can submerge very far, but enough to be undetectable on the surface, right? And so it makes it a transmedial type of vehicle, which is a new concept. And I know the USA has what they call their what is it called, the manta ray drone.
yeah.
Anyway, it's
The manta ray drone. Yeah, the
yeah, I
undersea
saw
drone.
that, right? Which is
It's badass.
it's nice. As an American, I'm just like, nice piece of
But
tech.
since I remember what I was going to talk about, because this will actually lead right into your politics anyway. So, or sorry, the economy. Well, actually, we'll kind of lead into the economy, sort of, because nobody likes riots except for the people doing the rioting. But governments really hate them because they cost a lot of money. So, have you
Yep.
been tracking the riots in England the past couple of days?
I just saw this, and I'm still trying to put together some of the pieces on it. Seems like there's a grassroots movement going on over there. I forget the guy's name. What do you know about it? Like, I'm trying to figure out like
Uh,
what's
Three
the
girls
source
were
of the?
killed at a dance studio in a stabbing attack by a young man. He was a young
Hmm.
black man.
Hmm.
Um, and he, I mean, I couldn't really place his ethnicity, but if you were to say, hey, you need to name a country, I'd probably say he looked like he was like maybe Eastern African descent. So they
Okay.
automatically assumed he was Muslim. And so they've been running, so they've been going to towns and looting and burning buildings. I'm assuming minority owned businesses because they think a Muslim came in. And so it's basically anti immigration rally.
Hmm.
It even is targeting people of Asian descent as well because there's a gentleman that was driving his vehicle. They surrounded the vehicle, broke the glass. They were saying "Get him, lads" or something like that, and he managed to get away. We don't know if there are other people in the car based upon the video. Some of the facial recognition because there are more. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I mean you would think this was China, but I believe in London they have like one of the highest numbers of cameras everywhere. So
Yep.
they found some of the perpetrators, and they've been there's a list of charges that they're getting stuck with. But I mean, I'm wondering what will happen that will cause that to occur here in the United States of America because I mean there were things that happened that weren't even related, like the killing of those children, but from the guy what was it, Chicago, Detroit. Well, since I don't really remember all the details, but basically it had to do with issues that happened overseas, and somebody here took issue with it and decided to harm them. Matter of fact, it was because of October 7th.
Uh,
it was resulting from that. So
yeah.
yeah, far right
I
always be
hate.
acting up, and so I'm just saying, y'all, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
I am a Second Amendment supporter.
Yeah. So Second
I,
Amendment, you said we were going to go to the shooting range like 2 weeks ago. Still waiting on
look,
you.
I've been stuck in the house, man. We're gonna
Yeah,
go.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But I
It feels
it's just
weird
so
walking
unfortunate.
around with it so much now, man. I can't feel at peace because you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, I'm not in in general. I'm not worried yet. That might change in November, depending on how things shake out. And so that's my. You see, did you see my little segue there? See how I did that? Just kind of put that in so I could go ahead and talk
Well,
about this
I
policy.
figured you. Well, I thought you said you were going to talk economy, so I thought you were going to talk about whatever weirdness happened with the stock market. And apparently, Japan had something to do with it. I don't know, but if
I'm
you
gonna
know,
get there though.
feel free to help me out on that.
I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but November, dude. I'm on this podcast. I think we made some very good predictions, especially maybe the last two episodes. We kind of hinted at um, Joe Biden's inefficacies and some of his shortcomings mentally and physically. And then voila, he's tapped out. I think the first thing I'll say is I think it was the right move for their party to do that. Because he wasn't after that debate. After that disastrous debate for him, I think a lot of support for him. Kind of just left among independent voters. And so now we have VP, potentially Madam President, Kamala
He
Harris
should resign.
is
I just know he won't. But it
it,
would be so good for Kamala if he were to resign. But anyways, go on.
yeah, well, we, hmm, I I don't I don't I'm not sure. I'm undecided on that point only because depending on how things go for the rest of the summer and up through um, the election, if anything were to happen, it'd be all on her anyway. It would be all on her. So to some extent, she can kind of separate herself during, the kind of this transition period, if you will. Um, but once she's in, at least she's got it for 4 years, and she can say she was elected, right, and not just I took over for a guy or took over for the guy. Um, she has rock solid support among female voters, especially black women. Um, And you are right about her possible VP pick. So I will give a shout out to you for getting that one right. I thought Shapiro would make it in despite some of his um, less than savory connections. Um, but I like Walls as well. I think he seems like he's got that I'm a regular guy feel to him. He's like
Well, he is. He
relatable.
was not a career politician. He was a
Yeah,
teacher for 20 years first.
yeah. I mean, he's got that. He's got he seems very likable, very kind of above board. I think he's going to relate well to a lot of independent voters, especially men who are, um, especially men who are just kind of like, I'm not excited, or they're getting Hillary vibes for whatever reason. They're just like, I don't really, not excited about, excited about Kamala. But women, dude, everywhere I turn, black women, white women, all kinds of women are just like, Kamala. So, I think if women are more likely to vote and less likely to sit out, I think she's got that locked up. She can pull some independent voters, man. I think she's gonna give Trump a run for his money. And I think it's really the only way that Trump gets a real challenge is through her. So I think the Dems made a good move, convincing Biden to step aside. What I wanted to ask you though was, I don't know if you remember this. We talked about what would happen if Biden couldn't be president, and so on and so forth. We also talked about how back in February, I think Vivek made, it's like, hey, we all know that Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee. They should just step up and tell us who it is. Um, and turns out, it's not Biden. But I want to ask you more along what Nikki Haley said. Nikki Haley said that in November, it wouldn't be Biden versus Trump, it would be her versus somebody else. And I just think back to the recent thank goodness, failed assassination attempt on President Trump. If that had been successful, who would Republicans have put up as the nominee, do you think?
Actually, I think it would have been Nikki Haley, especially if they felt like Biden was going to step down. Just let a woman on woman fight occur, and it that way it kind of removes that stigma. But that's why I love the Walls pick, not just because I like it's more. It makes it more. Well, this election is now even more ideologically based because of Waltz, because he is basically a moderate, well, with a strong progressive streak. Like part of his
Hmm.
background, like he was ahead of the curve by starting a like the gay and lesbian leagues that high schools had and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
when he was one of the first people to do it in that particular area back in like '89 or something like that. Um, he also he did actually call Trump supporters weird and some other kind of word, but hey, I think that's a fair criticism. But but yeah, he was a teacher for 20 years. He was also in the National Guard, I believe, for 24 years. He was football coach, and his entry into the political arena was actually unseating the incumbent in a deeply red district. So
Hmm.
that shows you the kind of appeal this guy has. He just has his nice big beer belly. He has a great sense of humor from what I heard. So like but he also has that nice white hair.
Hmm.
So you get that look of wisdom. That's what I'm saying. This guy checks so many boxes in terms of balancing Kamala. Like, I'm not trying to insult him because I like the guy. The
Hmm.
odds of me voting for Kamala were about 0.05% until she picked Waltz. Now we're up to a whopping 10%. And that's
Hmm.
just because of Walls. So, but it also shows that she ideologically may move further left than I expected, because I expect her to be a bit more pragmatic, moderate, which I'm not even that much against. I just don't like her history as a prosecutor locking people up for nonviolent crimes at such a
Yeah.
rate. That's
Well,
my
I think
that's my big hang up with her, and I just can't move past it.
it's a big hang up. But I think the reason why Walls was a good pick is because he will help to get the progressives on board, and she can she can allow him to speak to more of the progressive ideologies without her directly having to address them herself, right? So she'll be like, yeah, Wall's gonna talk about that type of stuff, right? And so it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off of her in terms of, you said this about progressive, because I don't really think that she's really that much of a progressive. I think in terms of her politics, I'm gonna say, in my estimation, I think she's probably right. Like, she's not too far off of Biden. Um,
Yeah, she's just left of center, like just left of center.
yeah, and this
But the
allows her to pick up that progressive support. And she'll just let Walls kind of go out and do his thing, and just net those votes for her, while also
also
giving her access to some of these, these red districts to maybe turn them purple. So
the
that's a good move by her. It's a great move by her. Trump, on the other hand, who the hell is JD Vance? Oh, billionaire lackey. Um, did absolutely nothing for the Republican ticket. I probably brought it down a little bit.
I
Um,
still think it's possible he'll get kicked to the curb.
he
But
should.
I love the fact that he's a dove though. Like he's the doviest of all the VP likely people that he picked up. Um, but Waltz is also a good pick. I just wanted to mention this because he's also a populist, and I'm a
Hmm.
populist, so I like him.
Well, I think there's something to that. I just, if Trump's smart, he'll get rid of him. But get rid of Vance. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Walls is definitely a keeper for Kamala,
So who
for
does he
Vice
go
President
with
Harris.
if he kicks Vance to the side off to the side then?
If I'm telling you, dude, if I'm Trump with this new development, I'm calling Vivek.
You calling who?
I'm calling Vivek.
Then
Yeah,
Ramaswamy. Yeah.
Tim. Yeah, to Tim, please. Uh, Laura, what is her name? Bobert? Laura? No, no, that's no good. That's a no go. Um, I think he's got the. Not only does he have the, um, he's got the intellectual prowess and the capability to be that VP attack dog, but do it right. Like, he can dismantle somebody in a debate. He can, he can speak intelligently. He can get you access to some minority communities. I would definitely go with Vivek. I think that'd be the move, right? Like, who would you think would be the spot that he could pick up?
Well, I mean, really, I think he would strongly consider maybe a Scott or even a Ben Carson. I think he'll pick a balance. I think it would be a balancing pick for
Mhm.
him, as opposed to going even deeper off the end. But and picking somebody like Taylor Green or like one of those other like legit nut jobs. Um, but I mean that could be fine. I mean, I don't think he's terrible or anything. But a smart person would make nice with Nikki Haley.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. I like that. I like that. That. I like it. I just wonder if she would do it. Do you think she would do it?
Yeah.
I think that is so weird that she just knew, like, she put that out there. It's not going to
Well,
be
did you see
Trump.
the interview with Michelle Obama though?
Well, I saw parts of it. I didn't see it in totality. Anything
The one from
saucy
like
there?
last year, right? Or earlier this year? I think I sent it to you. The one where the
No.
reporter asked her like, will Joe Biden be the nominee in 2024?" And she was like,
Oh, right.
I was just like,
I,
I
I,
don't.
I
And
mean,
she
we'll
like
see.
sidestepped the question. So like they knew even then, dude was going downhill. So I'm just saying. But
Yeah.
anyways, all you Jamal, come on.
Yeah, no, I was just like, that's so weird that she would know that. But hey, I guess if you look far enough down the road, you can see some things. Um, I think what I am surprised by, um, is, well, maybe not surprised by, but it seems to be a thing, is that the way, there still seems to be a split among black male voters around Kamala Harris. which
Mhm.
I didn't, which maybe I saw, but kind of was like, huh,
Oh,
that's
it's
interesting.
there. Oh, it's very there.
It's definitely there. What do you think is I mean, well, we've already pointed to her prosecutorial record.
Which is
What do
enough.
you
There,
think?
a lot of black men don't want to vote for a cop.
But do you think it's just that though? Because
I mean,
there's
honestly, it's
this,
enough. They don't want to see any further damage done to the criminal justice system, and that would stand a chance to happen. They don't want a rougher, tougher, more thorough DOJ and stuff like that. The same
Mhm,
organizations that have been locking us up at such a high rate. I mean, it's hard to want to vote for somebody came up in her entire existence through that system and
yeah,
backs it completely. I mean, that's just it's hard to pop. It's not very palpable. But what I've heard from people, like even in Jackson Ward, like a bunch of young, I'm talking about like like the street guys, got the blamey on him all the time. Like even they're
hmm
saying they're voting Trump because at least he came up with the money. And
yeah,
that's what people are concerned about the most. I mean, most people are whining, crying about the economy. And if money is an important issue to you, then Trump is more likely going to be best for the economy. Does that mean it's going to be best for the country? I don't know about all that.
yeah.
But I mean, on the issues that are most important to me, I trust Trump with those issues. I just don't trust Trump in general. And that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah, that is a hard pill to swallow because I agree with that sentiment. Um, I was talking to some hardcore Democrats the other day, um, and they were asking me kind of my thoughts around you know Trump and everything. Like, well, when you talk about the top issues that matter, like or that matter to most voters, well, let's say independent voters. I think it was out of the top four was the economy was first, immigration, abortion, and crap, the fourth one. Well, hell, I can't remember what the fourth one was, but it was low on the totem pole.
Probably
But
education or something.
no, it wasn't education.
Oh, entitlement programs like Social Security, Medicaid.
No, no, no,
Oh, okay,
no.
well, whatever.
But anyways, it was I'll find it later. Maybe I won't. Who knows? But I think with those when you talk about those, I'll call them the top three. Then economy, and
Immigration.
immigration and abortion. Um, Trump hits what, two out of three of those better,
Well, and here's the
depending
thing.
on where you
Trump
fall.
is even further distancing himself from the whole Project 2025 thing. And I really, really do not think he's going to go out of his way to increase abortion restrictions.
No, I don't think he will, right? But I think that he's the party that the platform that he has eschews it to the degree where people are just like, okay, he's not the guy to support abortion. Not that he's just like kind of, trying to like lock it down totally or just get rid of it. Him personally, but his platform is definitely anti-abortion. That's just enough for most people. But I agree with you when it comes to the economy. I think Trump would be better for the economy, and I definitely think he's going to take a tougher stance on immigration overall. Abortion, yeah, yeah, so that's two out of three. But I just don't like him. I still think January 6th was, he was party to insurrection. I just can't get past that.
Yeah,
So,
CIA's got plans for him if he makes it back to office. I don't know what those plans look like, but they're not going to let him send the country to hell. So I'm just
uh,
going to have to trust in them on that one because there's nothing I can do about it.
yeah, it's those constitutional, it just not even like he outlined the plans for it, but just when you say some constitutional changes, I don't know how you're going to manage that when you need such an overwhelming majority of Congress and the states to ratify amendments. I think we're safe from that, but what would he try to do? I don't know. The guy's a little bit unhinged for me, and it's a no for me. It's a no for me. I just wish and that's why I also say that if Vice President Harris can latch on to um, some of his economics, I mean, she could, she could really do some damage in November. Um, and I think that's probably why another reason why Walls is there, so that some of their more progressive ideologies, like I said, she can kind of distance herself from to an extent, and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to keep it middle of the road. And speaking of, the economy, uh, dude, listings are housing inventories increasing. I, I'm still not sure about a rate cut in September. We'll have to see about that. But I think we're definitely in a slowdown. People are really freaking out about this latest jobs report. I don't. It's one indicator, but I think the market's kind of overreacted because they want a rate cut so bad. Um,
I think we're gonna get the rate cut.
I've, I've,
I, I
I've,
I'm like 85% there.
there will be a rate cut, but just
I mean
when?
in September.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I I don't know. I think they may have a session. If part of me wants to say that probably they will have they will probably miss the expectation just to continue to cool off, but then probably prior to Thanksgiving, they'll have like a little emergency meeting or whatever, and they'll just toss out 25 basis points and so just bring it right down just a tad. And it might spark some additional holiday spending around in various areas and so on and so forth. We'll just have to see. Um, but I mean, how the price of housing is coming down, and not dramatically, but I've seen so I think the average price cut on most homes that have been on the market over 30 to 60 days is probably something like $30,000. It's not nothing, you know what I mean? It's still that's significant in my eyes. But until you get those mortgage rates down, you know, it doesn't matter. $250,000 house at 8% is okay. 8% is extreme, but at 7% is just not affordable for most people. So you got a long way to
How
go.
much does a person pay over the course of 30 years at that 7% on a $250,000 home, roughly?
I mean, I'll have to get my calculator out, but I
Oh,
could tell you for
I thought you could ballpark it for me. All right, I want
no.
I,
Well, here's something for you to think about, right? So $200,000 house at what was it? Four? No, is it 3 point? We'll call it 4%. Had a note of about 1430, so $1,430 over 30 years. And so you could say, well, if interest rates double, what does that do to the payment, right? So you just kind of take it, you kind of take it from there, man. Do you want to pay, you know, $2,800 for a $200,000 house over 30 years when it was what 14? What would I say? 20? Yeah,
you said 1430 at first. Yeah.
yeah. So it's dramatic the way the cost of housing has increased. So, some people have said, the corporations are going to buy up all the real estate, and just force everybody to be renters and so on and so forth. I don't see that happening here without a revolution. I mean, no, private property is kind of like the foundation of America, right? There's going to be some people of all persuasions who aren't going to like that, and I think they're all going to be 2A supporters. Do with that what you will. Do that what you will.
Well, they need to hack down some HOAs before they're at it. Anyways, that's not.
Well, I think I've touched on politics and the economy. You got any spicy nuggets you're sitting on over there? I know this is a long this is a long I know this is a long episode because we've had so much bottled up over the last couple of months, no, like month and a half. So you get a chance to get it out. You know what I mean?
No, it's all good. I mean, there's plenty more to talk about, but no, I don't have any particularly spicy nuggets. I'm just Just waiting for the news to see what Iran does. Like that's the only like current event, if you will, that I'm paying really close attention to because of the potential effects that it could have. But like even if I think about it, like even if it did go into a full blown regional war of like Lebanon and Iran, what is even happening with Syria anymore? Nobody even talks about them. But anyways, and, and Pakistan's population, like I think 43 or 53% of it are of Palestinian descent. So I'm like, are any of them gonna decide to come out and play like on their own? Pakistan would never do that because they need to be friendly with the U.S. So like, but yeah, I'm like that. So I'm just wondering what that regional war would look like. And Israel is not equipped for extended ground wars. They're more of a lightning strike style of military.
Hmm.
So have if they were to face another 7 days war situation where like everybody's coming at them, I mean, it would force the United States and the remainder of the Western allies to get involved. Um,
Well, yeah.
and
Well,
who
that's
knows?
why
And who
they do
knows where
this,
it could
though.
go from there?
Well, this is why they feel like they can do these types of things, is because we have a mutual defense treaty with them.
Hmm.
So, if somebody rolls up, then we're obligated to step in and provide at least defense. So they're just like, well, ain't nobody messing with the United States, and they got my back, like you were saying before. It's my big brother. So F you guys. You know what I mean? That's kind of how they feel. That's a little brother. The big brother wishes would just calm down and sit down somewhere because he's like making the rest of the family look bad. You know what I mean? We're trying to repair a reputation, a familiar reputation, and you just got one little, kind of loose cannon over here shooting off in the mouth.
Oh,
Like you remember those mob movies where you got the one overzealous little brother that wants to prove himself to the world, and he starts all this crap out in the streets and just look, we'll take care of it, just like be cool, but he can't, so it causes problems.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
this reminds
yeah.
me of.
I get what you're saying. I was trying to think of like a specific movie. I kept thinking of Dick freaking Sopranos and Godfather. I'm like that was the older brother in that particular case, if I'm not mistaken. Like what was
Hmm.
Fredo? But anyways, whatever. But speaking of warfare, we're pretty close to getting a new standard rifle in the U.S. military. It's
I
made by
saw.
Sig Sauer as a squad automatic weapon variant. That's lighter than the 249 that we used to carry around, but the rifle is heavier than the regular rifle than the M4s and M16s that many service members carry around, and it will fire a 6.8 millimeter projectile. Why? Because it's not as much kickback as the 7.62s you see out of a lot of the eastern countries. But most importantly, it's just strong enough to where it can defeat level 2 and level 3 body armor, which the 5.56 typically cannot do.
Hmm.
And it turns out that China's super cheap ballistic plates, which you can get for about $300 online right now, are strong enough to stop those military grade NATO 5.55 mounts. Justin, you know how to do this. 5.5556. Shit, too many fives. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm like, shoot, I might have to check out them plates if I can go to Bargain Town to that point.
Well, I think you're seeing an evolution in body armor anyway. So I think a lot of well-equipped militaries are moving away from metal plates towards ceramics, ceramic hybrids, and they've been stopping everything short of. I think they're ready for. I think what I've seen is that they can stop up to a 30-06.
Yeah, they can. I mean, even back in 2003, we had ceramic plates. They were new then. They had just started rolling
Hmm.
those out for real, and we were fortunate that we had the ceramic plates because a lot of dudes were out there at the very beginning of it without even that. They just had flak jackets.
Yeah.
Um, and to harden their vehicles, they would get extra flak jackets and strap them to the doors to help protect from IEDs. All kinds of wild stuff. That things were like in the beginning of the war, but the only time I did see a metal plate in the military was the body armor that they used to give MPs because it was just a
Hmm.
simple like level 2 with a little plate that goes in there and that was it.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if they run they probably run around in full body armor by now. I haven't been on a base in quite a while.
Well, I guess
My brother's an
what was
MP. I
it?
could just ask him, but he's off deployed elsewhere at the moment. So,
was the thought
but
around that just like, man, if you're doing, if you're on base, right, I guess the worst you're gonna encounter on average, maybe like a pistol or something like that.
yeah, it'll be small arms fire.
Yeah.
I want to say that the vest, when I was reading it, it claimed it could stop a 5.56. I wouldn't trust it. uh,
We'll see. We'll
uh,
see. Uh,
yeah, I'm like, I don't know. But before, when I left Lynchburg, I ended up selling it to one of my security bros. But
okay.
wish I
Well,
had
but
kept
just to
that.
bring it home, right? And this may or may not be controversial. It shouldn't be at this point, I feel like. But just to bring it home, I've seen in some of the lesser headlines that an alleged 9/11 mastermind has had his plea deal rescinded.
Hmm.
You see this?
Yeah.
So here's my question, because I could have sworn we had a whole war and made a detour to get the mastermind who should have been executed and buried at sea. That was my understanding. That's what I thought happened, right? A lot of people died going overseas to make sure this happened, right? 9/11. Who the hell is this guy? Who is this guy? That's the mastermind? I thought we got him. What is this about? You
Well,
know
I
anything
mean,
about
it
this?
could be like a CEO and a COO sort of thing. To put it in corporate terms.
Dude, well, you know what? There's no need to go down this road because you know, the way they set this whole thing up, man, was just like, oh, he's operating out of a cave in Afghanistan, but then we find him in like Pakistan in his own little complex, just kind of playing video games and watching Family Guy or whatever. And we take that guy out, who used to be one of ours, and now there's another mastermind who's had his plea deal rescinded. Who's this guy? Where did he come from? Why didn't we get him when we got the other guy? If they were in it to, you know what? Never mind.
Well, actually, but I think he's been. But the thing is, I think he's actually been locked up for like a long time. But I think that was mostly just like held under like those terrorism acts, so they don't really have to sentence you; they can just hold you indefinitely. So I
Uh,
think now it's coming to a head, and then he's like, "Hey, man, y'all have had me locked up for like 20 years. I'm locked up." And, it's just. But they're
yeah,
not gonna let you out, at least not alive. So,
yeah, no due
yeah.
process for your ass. But anyway, that's it for me. I saw that and I was just like, okay, that's odd. I have questions, but I think that's me bringing it home. Anything you want to add on before we wrap this one?
No, we'll save it for the next TBI Tuesday coming at you every Tuesday. We gonna do it.
TBI
We gonna
Tuesdays.
do it for real. TBI
Two
Tuesdays, you heard?
TBI Tuesdays. Make sure you check us out on at you can email us at two blackpod. That's the number two blackpod at gmail.com, or Instagram, and on not Facebook, on YouTube
You tizzle?
at the
Yep.
at the Black Independence. So thanks very much for being here. We appreciate you. Love and light, prosperity.
Peace,
Thanks.
please. Oh
I
gosh.
I didn't do that. I did
I know
not
you
do
did.
that. I
I knew
didn't
you
do
did. You're like, oh, we got
that.
excited. Let's go. While you're
Yeah.